G'day, hi, and welcome. I'm here in Unico, my little unicorn, my office, and I meant to make this video a couple of days ago, but I thought I'd make it today just because, why not? Okay, learn how to brake properly or you're going to die. Okay, I watched a video, and everybody's seen these type of videos. Now, I'm in a whole bunch of Facebook groups, one in particular, Motorcycle Universe. Like over 200,000 people, or close to, it's 180,000 or 200,000 people that are members of this. And you always get, hey, check out my new bike. So I see, and this is very typical of places that don't have mandatory riding course. You can just tell just by the way the people are riding. You got this guy on an R6 in shorts, sneakers, he's got the helmet and $400 racing gloves, of course. That type of thing. And he takes off, and he nearly clips a car. Like, you can tell he doesn't know how to keep the bike in the lane when he takes off. And it's just like, it's a complete acceleration, not a smooth kind of clutches out and then go up to speed and, make your turn and then go up to speed. It's kind of like, so the guy doesn't know how to control the throttle, right? Feet dangling off the pegs. So the bike's unstable, and as he's turning, he doesn't realize that you have to have your feet on the pegs when the bike is moving. I hear but when you got a bike that's heavy or when when you're going really slow, you're going to fall over. No, you're going to fall over because your feet are dangling off the pegs. If you're doing a mile per hour, you should still be able to keep your bike upright with your feet on the pegs and with control. 5 miles per hour is all you need. And you're stable. You're stable. I got a short wheelbase bike, trust me. As soon as the bike's moving, my feet are on the pegs. There's no excuse. And you're going to be more stable. So that's number one, feet on the pegs. Because you can't control your bike with your legs dangling. And it drives me nuts. It's mostly cruiser riders that you see do this. Because, they can put both feet down at any time, but they don't realize that it's going to cost them in the long term because you're going to improperly brake when your feet are dangling off the pegs. First thing, you're on your cruiser, you're going through the light, your feet are off the pegs. Oh, there's an emergency. You grab the front brake. Why? Because you can't touch the back brake. Why? Your feet are dangling. What happens? You overpower the bike. You jackknife, down you go. You're going to kiss a bumper or whatever. Eat pavement, you get it. You're going to, road rash. That's what's going to happen to you. Scenario 2, guy takes off, he's got 1 foot down, doesn't matter, let's say it's a Goldwing or even a Harley decked out, he's got a passenger on, he's covering the back brake, he starts going, emergency, back brake, front brake, perfect stop, nobody gets hurt, yells at somebody, sorry dude, didn't see you, whatever, perfect braking, passengers, this is happening, okay, no problem, complete control, bike's loaded up, probably 1,500 pounds with the passenger fuel, 2 cases of beer in the saddlebags, whatever. They're fine. Why? Because proper braking. A bike's nice and straight when he stops. He doesn't touch the front brake until he straightens up the bars and comes upright. Both feet on the floorboards, pegs, whatever. Perfect braking. Sport bike guy takes off. Okay, he's got a bike that weighs next to nothing. So it means it's going to stop fast. He's got dual disc ups up front that could stop a race car, let alone a bike. And not enough finesse or experience to know how to use those brakes without dying. He takes off, and this is the video footage. The guy takes off like that, nearly clips the oncoming car because he goes wide in the lane. He doesn't know how to do a 90. And I see a lot of guys that they don't know how to do a 90. He takes off, goes down the street. By the time he's halfway to the stop sign, he's just putting his feet on the pegs, and then he's jamming on the front brake to try to stop at the sign. The bike kind of does the dive and then pops back. The front end kind of dives and then comes back up. Kind of bounces him around, and he kind of hobbles on both feet to try to whatever. Takes off again, feet off the pegs. Bike does, kind of takes a little bit to straighten up. And he turns around, he comes back, he walks the bike around. Takes up 4 times the amount of space that it takes to turn a bike. I can turn my bike in 14 feet with both feet on the pegs at 5 miles an hour. And that's a sport bike. Now the problem is when he's turning, he's trying to slow down too, and he's using the front brake while he's in a turn with his feet off the pegs. Bikes, like it's rough, right? Whereas if he was to keep his feet on the pegs, slow down with just the back brake, come around, and then, I'm going a little too fast, just snub the back brake a little bit more, look where he wants to be rather than doing this. No, I want to be over there. I'm going to look where I'm going to go. You got to watch what you're going to go into. Okay, that's clear. Make your judgment before you make your turn. Make your turn, come back. So, this is very important, learning how to brake properly. But you can't brake properly unless your feet are on the pegs. So with a sport bike, you don't need to have both feet down anyway. Your left foot down is all you need. Cover the back brake, unless the brake's on the opposite side. But any bike, 1 foot braking is 1 foot down is fine. Even on a big heavy bike, if your bike is upright when you come to a stop, you can balance it. You don't need both feet down. I know some bikes are low enough that you can get away with both feet down. Okay, when you're stopped, whatever, you're comfortable. Pop the bike in neutral, just sit there with both feet down. Fine. But as soon as you get going, right foot on the brake, cover the brake right away. While you're going through an intersection, you may need it. The back brake, and I know what people are going to say, yeah, but I only need the front brake because I get 70 to 90% of my stopping power off the front brake. This is true. But it's overkill. Front brakes on motorcycles are just downright overkill. The only way it works smoothly is if you stabilize the bike before you start grabbing the front lever. And this is where your back brake, if you're braking properly, you're going to wear out your back brake before your front brakes. Why? Because at low speed, you don't need race car stopping power. You're gonna put yourself on the ground. If your handlebars are slightly turned and you grab a handful of that front brake, the bike dives, it's going to pop you off to the side and down you're going to go. And that's what gets most people is low speed handling. But if you stabilize the back brake first, that will straighten up your bike, number one. Number two, it takes the dive factor out of the front brake. It basically tames the front brake. The back brake tames the front brake. You can look at it that way. So it's always back brake, front brake, all the time. It doesn't matter how sequenced close it is. Like you can go, kind of like that. Some bikes are a little, the brakes are a little out of, my bike, the brakes are, as great as the brakes are in the front and on the back on my Triumph, they are a little out of sequence, meaning I have to get my back brake going a little bit before but the front brake to make them work together. Maybe you can adjust, maybe it's just a old bike or whatever. But if you adjust your levers perfectly, you can synchronize so that the back brake just comes on like a millisecond before the front brake, and that's enough just to stabilize the bike. And then you'd be surprised how well it works and how finessed it works. But most importantly, how well you can handle the bike. You'd be surprised how tight you can turn a bike when you practice this. So, of course, this guy's like, this is my first bike. It was like an R6 or an R1 or something. Proper squid. It was like, no brain, skin exposed. The guy's going to be a statistic. He's going to raise our insurance. I don't care about this guy, but he's going to raise our insurance. That type of thing. No, I do care. That's why I'm giving the advice. I love seeing people riding. No, you should not. It should be illegal to start on a super sport without any prior training. It's saving you from yourself. I'm all for free will and libertarianism, but there's just sometimes common sense has to kick in. What I would say is if people take a riding course, then yeah, okay, fine. Because in a riding course, the instructor is going to see where your faults are. And even, believe it or not, I've been riding since I was a kid. Now, mind you, I took a hiatus off of two-wheel bikes for about 18 years there. And it's been about 20 years since I've been back on the road, and this is my second season. And I've got just about 10,000 kilometers on this bike. I'll be doing that 10,000 kilometer TT600 review fairly soon. I'm going to try to get one of my friends to get me coming through this little S-bend right here. And you're going to see some nice riding technique and stuff like that. But it took me a little while to get back into the swing of things. But now it's like, when I ride my bike, I don't even see the bike most of the time. Like, I speed check myself once in a while just to see, but I can ride the bike by sound. It's like, okay, I know when I'm speeding just by sound. The only thing I monitor on my bike is make sure the oil light doesn't come on, the temperature, then the speed, and then whatever. Everything else is about the corner, the line, the oncoming traffic, the sides of the roads, traffic behind me. That's all. Like, I don't get on my motorcycle. I put it on. And the thing is, oh, I want to do a U-E. I come to the white line. I look back there, and then you go where you look. My feet never come off the pegs. I'm going to get some footage of you seeing me doing a U-E on the road. It's when I'm sloppy, I go over onto the ditch a bit, but sometimes I do that on purpose just in case somebody's coming the other way. I do it on like big straight stretches, whatever. And I'll do it, and I'll just go just off the road enough, and then look, okay, second look, and that way I'm not turning into anybody, or somebody's not going to come up behind me or anything like that. But I do it in an area where it's like quarter mile that way, quarter mile that way. If anybody's coming, I'm going to see them, so I don't even turn until I see them, or I'll pull off the road and then I'll do it. And I'll do these little U-Es. I could do them to the left, I could do them to the right, and this is on a sport bike, and sport bikes are a little bit more twitchy at low speed. There's no doubt about that. But right there, that's the whole thing. Is if you can't handle the bike at 5 miles per hour with your feet on the pegs, there's no reason for you to go any faster. And I'm not saying that to be insulting. I'm just saying you're going to die if you don't know how to do it. And I do understand it takes time. And new riders, if they're not shown how to learn properly, the statistics show that most people that are going to down their bike, they're going to down it in their first year. Particularly if they have no previous experience. So I think even if it's not mandatory in your area, I know, well, it might be an extra $100 or $250 to take that course. No, I got to put that on my $400 gloves, my new wife beater shirt that I'm going to ride around on, This is a freaking Gixxer, bro. No, I'm kidding. But I was kind of surprised that this guy wasn't riding a Gixxer just by the way he was riding, though. I'm kidding. I'd love to get one of the new GSX-R 1000. I think that's a pretty cherry bike. And very comfortable too. But the thing is that the low speed handling is what you learn in a course. And that low speed handling translates into high speed. It just works so well. What gets bikes is the low speed handling 99% of the time. And yes, you can die at 5 miles per hour getting launched off your bike. Look, years ago, every Harley rider I ever seen wore an open face. I was a Harley rider, and I used to ride open face too. Now I see quite a few Harley riders with full face helmets. It does look a little bit odd to me. It really does, because it's a bike that you would think you'd only see open face on. But, rider education does different things to different people. When you see a helmet that's grinded, the visor and everything's grinded off, you just imagine, what if that was that guy's face? The next time you see the guy, he's wearing a full face. It's like, oh, yeah, I ditched my beanie for a full face, It does mean I know the helmet debate is, we won't go into that, but you get the idea. People are starting to take gear a lot more seriously. That's the other thing. You buy a bike, I suggest if you're going to save up for the bike, save up for the gear first. Because once you get the bike, you're not going to buy the gear because, well, I don't have the cash right now. You found the cash for the bike, you found the cash for the course, you found the cash for the insurance. Oh, but I'll get the gear later. I'll get the gear. You won't. Get the gear first. I know. Mind you, get the gear only if you know 100% you're going to make it through the course. I had lots of previous riding experience. I am an official redneck. You could see here that so I grew up on dirt bikes. I think I learned how to ride dirt bikes before I could even walk. So yeah, I learned a lot about riding on rough surfaces and proper body posture and stuff like that. But even at that, like riding on a dirt bike, you're not the same postures as you are on a sport bike or on a cruiser or whatever. It is a difference, but the fundamentals are exactly the same. You got to keep the bike upright. The other thing I see is guys turning like this. They go around a corner. They're fighting the bike. They don't know how to stay with the bike. It takes a long time to learn how to trust the bike, trusting yourself. And once you do, it's amazing how much better you ride. I did run number 73 last night of the season. And there's a series of S-bends just up the road a bit. And I was going through them and whatever. And, my approach speed. And what gets people is either extremely long corners. Because if they have to brake in a long corner, they don't know how to straighten up the bike. And a lot of times, people get into a corner, especially novice riders. They go into a corner and they start accelerating into the corner, and then by the time they hit the apex, they're going too fast. Now, if there's a consecutive corner going the other way, they might make that one, but they're going to be a little off the line. And then if there's a third one, they completely blow the entry, they completely blow the apex, and they're in the ditch. And that's what gets people. Why? Because they don't know how to take corners. They don't know how to maintain throttle speed. Throttle speed is an art form in itself, and you have to learn. You have to learn the bike you're on. Every bike's different, but there's going to be fundamentals that are going to stay the same. There's not a motorcycle on the planet I can't ride. It's just you got to understand the fundamentals are the same for bike to bike. It's just the fine tuning of, okay, this bike's a little more twitchy than that bike. This bike, is a little slower to turn than that bike. It just takes a little bit of learning your counter steering versus your counterbalancing. Braking, low speed brakes will understanding how to properly brake will improve your entire riding experience, because I pick on him from time. I don't watch his channel too much anymore. I don't know if he's still riding or not. Hopefully not, because a yammy noob. This guy, I've seen how he's downed himself several times, and a lot of times it is his rider error. For example, there's a lot of gravel coming in this little road here. I come in here all the time. I call it asteroid fields when you come off a road and there's just strip of just loose rocks right on the pavement, and that's going to take you out. Chances are he was on the front brake when he hit this. You know what I mean? So back brake, knowing when not to use the front brake is probably more important, because you can always count on the back brake to slow you down a bit. It's just you can't count on the back brake to emergency stop, because you don't have the power. But at low speed, the back brake is your friend. And you're gonna, like I say, if you're braking properly, you're gonna wear out the back brake before you wear out the front brakes. The back brake is to stabilize the bike. I can't stress that enough. Once you start thinking of it in that terms, now I'm not saying just use the back brake, and you get these guys that either just use the back brake or they just use the front brake. No, you want to use both together if you want your brakes to last. So you're coming off the highway or whatever, start touching your back brake to stabilize the bike, and then start bleeding off the main speed to whatever level you got. Give yourself room to brake, and then learn how to brake fast on your bike. Bring your knees into the tank. It doesn't matter if it's a cruiser or a crotch rocket or whatever. Learn how to bring your knees into the tank properly. And then once you're braking smoothly, learn the sequencing of your brakes, because again, some brakes, the back brake might take forever to come on, and then you're hitting the front brake's coming on before your back brake, and you're starting to dive the front end of the bike. And I can tell if somebody's just using the front brake when they come in. They come in, their bike does this all the time. Coming into the light, and the front end dives all the time. So, but if you're using the back brake, it comes to like this. It's a nice smooth, it stabilizes you. There's no reason why you shouldn't use both brakes. But at really, really low speed, the front brake is beyond overkill. Even if you have a single disc or even a drum up front, you can lock up a lot easier. If you're doing a UE, you use your back brake. Why? Because if you lock up the back brake, you still got control of the front end. You lock up the front brake at low speed, you're going to be on the ground. You will not be able to save it. Even Flash Gordon wouldn't be able to save it. You'd be on the ground before you know it. You'll be on the ground before you know you're on the ground. And that's what gets people. Why? Because they don't know when to use the back brake. But that takes practice. That takes a lot of practice. But the big thing is this is why I say feet on the pegs. As soon as you start rolling, you got to start pulling your feet on the pegs. If you're on a sport bike, learn how to do the 1 foot technique. I know some people are a little bit shorter. With your legs dangling on both sides, the bike's just like, it's like trying to ride a cow. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be all over the place. It's just, you need to be able to have control of the bike at all times, and you can't do that unless you're in a proper riding position. So you have to have your feet on the pegs as soon as you're rolling. Again, 5 miles per hour shouldn't, I know when I hear people, below 10 miles an hour, you don't know, a big bike like that, or the weight of the bike, a bike can weigh 10,000 pounds and you should still be able to uphold it if you're riding properly. If you are using your riding skills properly, the weight of the bike it's just, the only thing with the weight of the bike is a heavier bike just takes a little more distance to stop. That's it. Low speed handling, Unless you got like a front end that's like 8 feet out or whatever, you should be able to turn even the heaviest of deckers in less than 20 feet very easily with a full load with a passenger on, no problem. I've seen some pretty phenomenal riding skills with bagger guys. Problem is most of the guys on the heavy tour bikes, they don't take enough time to learn the low speed, because the bikes are very stable at highway speeds and stuff like that. And when they're coming in, the bikes aren't super squirrely. But what gets them? This is what gets the heavy bikes. The hill that you come down, then there's a stop sign. So you're coming down the hill and the stop sign, and it turns left or turn right, whatever. And as they're coming down, they only use the front brake, and then they dump the bike. Why? Because they got 1,200 or 1,500 pounds in a passenger, and if this is the steering on the bike, they're going to turn, say, coming down the front end, they turn slightly to the right, and as soon as the bike dives, it pops them to the other side, down they go. Whereas if they use the back brake and then use the front brake just at the last, start braking early with the back brake first, and then test your front brake and make sure you have complete control. If you don't feel like you have control, put more on the back brake, and you'll feel the bike stabilize. You'll feel the back end stabilize. Because what happens when you don't use the back brake is the back end feels like it wants to pass the front end. It feels like it wants, because you got all that inertia. The front brake pushes the bike to stop, right? The back brake drags the bike to stop. It's kind of a way of looking at it. It kind of, it's a different. It's doing it in different ways. Again, the back brake stabilizes the bike. And when your feet are on both pegs, your bike is stabilized. Again, I've seen guys ride like in traffic on big, heavy tour bikes, and like they're like the bike's completely at 0 speed, and it's just about to fall over, and they just let out just enough clutch to get it going, and between the clutch and the back brake, they're just and they're holding like the front end might wander a little bit, but these guys are like perfect low speed handling. But they're not touching the front brake at all. They don't need to. I mean, below 5 miles an hour, you're not going to need the front brake. Like it's just going to put you on the ground. But you need to learn this stuff, and that's why a course is a good idea, even if it's not mandatory. It's going to save your life. But when I see guys that can't even take off out of like a driveway, they got to walk themselves to the line, and then they're just like trying to power their way through the turn rather than have control and then come out. Like for me, until I come out like this. Okay, here's my laneway, and I'm on beach sand. I mean, I ride my sport bike down a beach sand. My driveway is complete hell to drive down. It's the scariest bike, place to take even a dirt bike, let alone a sport bike. I come down, back brake only on the soft stuff. So you got to account for that you're not going to have the same. You touch a front brake on loose gravel, you're probably going to go down. You might get away with it a little bit, but back brake's your friend. So I come to the line, and I got to turn this way. Car goes by, I come out maybe not even halfway in the lane, like that. I'm already turning, and I'm like this. Say my nose is the yellow line. I don't do this. I never go over the line. So many people get killed pulling out of driveways because they can't hold a bike, and it's like they're like what and. They get into a normalcy bias of the habit of, when it counts, I'll stay inside the line. You will not. It's the same problem with these guys that cross the line in curves all the time, that are always coming in and coming out, because they can't hold a line. They don't know how to hold a line. And a lot of that is because they don't know where to look. Vision is 90 to 95% of your input on a motorcycle. Or any vehicle, really. The rest is, the feedback through the tires and stuff like that, knowing your bike, etc., etc. But that's what it is. You go where you look. So if you're looking right at the yellow line or the dividing line, you're going to go towards the dividing line. So when you're coming out, you make your turn, you start, I want to be there. Don't look at where you are, look where you want to be, and you'll be there. Make sure you check the traffic before it's all left, right, go. Whenever it's safe to do so, right? And again, like low speed handling, again, on a sport bike is, there's no excuse not to be able to handle a bike low. Oh yeah, but my bike's got 215 horsepower, man, it can't go slow. Yes, it can. You can get a Ducati V4 to go 5 miles an hour if you know how to ride. You can get the BMW HP4 Race Carbon to go 2 miles an hour if you know how to ride. These bikes are stable when you are stable. These bikes, again, it's There's no excuse. And I know I got to put my money where my mouth is. What I might do is if I can get like a little slalom. I don't know. I don't have cones. I got a bag full of teddy bears. Maybe I'll do a teddy bear slalom. And just to show people some low speed handling. So I'm going to wait till, say, early October to do this when it's not quite so hot out. Because the problem is when it's really hot out there, especially with a fairing bike, bike gets really hot really fast, right? But just to show you, like, the bike type doesn't matter if you have the fundamentals. Getting used to the bike, that's, yeah, okay, that is what it is. It takes about 10,000 clicks or about 5,000 miles, 6,000 miles to really get to know a bike. You know, what it likes, what it doesn't, what's just, you know, a case of old bike syndrome, what's a case of, oh, hey, I got to get that fixed, or hey, this is a little out of whack, or whatever. Yeah, I get that stuff. I mean, it's, when I hear guys or see guys that ride like this, it's like, we're going to be scraping you off the pavement. You don't need to be. You know, motorcycling is a great thing. It's a lot of fun, but you got to learn how to do it right, guys. Braking is the fundamental, so important, and it all starts with your feet on the pegs and getting on there early. You know, and obviously knowing how to take off on a bike. Even if you're going to do a corner or something like that, you know, when your bike is upright, straight, the bars are straight, once you start rolling, then you can start moving the bars around. If you have to start with your bars, you know, turned, and sometimes that happens too. Like, okay, well, you're in a crowd of bikes, and it's like, well, you know, I got to do one of these and start with your bars crooked. You can do that, but it takes an experienced rider to do that. I can do that, but it's like you have to be very intentional about your stuff, and you have to have your balance down. You have to know the bike and what its capabilities are and are not. So that's just a little tip I'm going to go. I know I'm going on a little bit long, and I know I'm getting kind of preachy and ranty on this, but it is for newer riders. I get it. Oh, it's an extra XYZ amount of dollars, but what's your life worth? You know, go and take a proper course. Don't get your buddy to show you. Yes, you can learn stuff on the internet, but go take a course. Just even if you don't have to, it's your life you're talking about here. And not only that, I mean, these things can be pretty high speed projectiles, sport bikes or cruisers or whatever. If you get hit by a sport bike at 100 miles an hour, it's the same as getting hit by a 1,000-pound cruiser, 1,500-pound cruisers at 60. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't want to kill anybody. I don't want anybody to kill me. And the best way for that not to happen is to be in control of my machine at all times. That's all I can really say. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. So, all right. So anyway, you guys have yourself a great day and ride safe, tire side down, and don't ride any faster than your guardian angels can fly. So keep that in mind. Be true to yourselves. Be true to others. Always do the right thing. Have yourselves a great day.